Valley. And they're going to speaking about the housing project that is happening in Walnut Creek. And I'm going to tell everybody, I walk on the Iron Horse Trail every morning and I walk right by this project. And so I have seen it since the beginning. So I'm excited to hear this update this morning. Take it away.
So we're actually still waiting for Chad Silver to join. So I'm just texting him real quick. He's our CEO, our COO for Walnut Creek Hospital. So
okay. Great. And John Muir, I believe, is also a sponsor of this Habitat for Humanity project. That's the last thing I heard as well. So thank you, Sherlyn, for, we'll wait for Chad here. Patti, maybe is there anything you want to add right now before we get started?
Well, I was just going to say, Sharon, I hope that one of these days when you are walking by the site, you might stop and swing a hammer. We could use the help.
I hear them early too on Saturday mornings. So they're working.
Oh yeah, I was just out there this past Saturday, very early. A lot going on.
He's really good about getting people out to volunteer at the site. So it's quite fun.
Yep, Shirlene's been out there too.
It looks like Chad is now on, so we can
great
move forward.
Morning.
Good morning, Chad. Welcome.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. I apologize for being a few minutes late.
Okay. Okay, good. Some screen sharing. I see this. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. Perfect. Take it away, Chad and team.
All right. Well, first and foremost, I just wanted to say good morning and thank you to the Livermore Chamber of Commerce for allowing us the opportunity to speak with you today. I apologize. I'm getting my voice back. I'm fighting allergies. So if I get a little raspy, I will have to grab some water and so forth, but just wanted to put that out there. So for those that do not know who I am, I'm Chad Silver. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of our Kaiser Walnut Creek Medical Center, and very happy to be here with my partner, Patti Cross, who will be introducing herself in a second. But our goal is to really highlight some great work that we are doing with Habitat for Humanity, Kaiser Permanente, to really address an important key issue in our communities. Patti?
Thank you so much, Chad. As Chad mentioned, I'm Patti. I'm the communications manager at Habitat for Humanity East Bay, Silicon Valley. And my voice is a little raspy too. I've got coffee, less for medical reasons and more because I'm a mom and I need it for survival. But many people know the name Habitat for Humanity. You know, we're a global nonprofit that serves in over 70 countries around the world, also 1,100 affiliates all across the 50 states here at home. And so a lot of people know our name. Not a lot of people are aware that we are right here in our communities at home, working hard to build affordable housing. At East Bay, Silicon Valley specifically, we serve Alameda, Contra Costa, and Santa Clara counties. I can say I personally have a lot of great memories from helping to build 22 homes in Livermore all the way back in 2005. So I did a lot of hammer swinging back in those days, a little less of that now. I do miss it. But, you know, like I said, we serve a lot of diverse communities all around the country and around the world that face a lot of unique housing challenges everywhere we serve, but we all are united by the vision of the fact that everyone deserves a decent place to live. And so specifically here in our 3-county service area, we work to achieve that by tackling the housing crisis with a holistic approach. And in doing that, we do new home construction. So this is where we are creating new home ownership opportunities for families with limited incomes, bringing the opportunity and all the benefits that come with home ownership within reach of more people and families here in the Bay Area. We also work to preserve homes. So we work to keep the affordable housing we have, helping out current low-income homeowners with critical repairs and improvements that they need to stay safe, comfortable, and stable in their homes as well as in their communities, keeping them rooted where they are. And then also, we are one of the few affiliates in the country that are HUD certified as a housing and financial counselor. And so this means we offer counseling, we offer education that supports people who are working toward home ownership, and also 3 main ways in which we approach the housing crisis here in the East Bay and Silicon Valley, but the particularly key partners like Kaiser Permanente, whose values are so closely aligned with ours and who also have such an intimate understanding of that relationship between health and housing, which I know Chad will address a little bit more in depth a little further down. So Kaiser is not only provided funding for home building, but also has helped us to preserve affordable housing here in the area. They recently actually donated 2 homes that we have since been able to renovate fully and sell to 2 families with limited incomes.
All right, so for those that do not know Kaiser Permanente, and if you are a Kaiser Permanente member, thank you in advance for being a member as part of our organization. But wanted to just highlight a little bit about the Kaiser Permanente Diablo service area. So Kaiser Permanente is an organization that was founded in the East Bay in 1945, offering care to thousands of workers at the Richmond shipyards. Our Diablo service area encompasses East and Central Contra Costa County and the Tri-Valley and Alameda County, caring for approximately 480,000 members within this Diablo service area. And I think Kaiser Permanente has close to 12.5 million members, so our breadth is very large. Our service area, for those that do not know, we have 2 medical centers. We have Walnut Creek and Antioch medical centers. And we have 9 medical office buildings throughout the different counties, providing and supporting care to our members. And then Kaiser Permanente is really driven by our commitment to overall health and really providing high quality, affordable healthcare settings while improving the health of our members and, of course, the communities that we serve. Go to the next slide. So we're going to play a little video here. So this is Esperanza's Place. It's nestled in a very charming area of Walnut Creek, perfectly along the BART Contra Costa Transit Center. It has 42 beautiful townhomes ranging from about 1 to 4 bedrooms, great open community space, and a private outdoor space of each unit. It's being built as a zero net energy project. The homeowners will be singles, seniors, and young families, really contributing to an overall diverse community. And so we are super excited to announce that phase 1, which includes about 23 homes, will be completed at the end of 2023.
And what Chad just highlighted, as he said, is Esperanza Place in the heart of Walnut Creek. It's a development that we're really excited to be partnering on and really proud of. And it's just one example of what we're doing here in the Bay Area. Like I mentioned before, we're really working to tackle this housing crisis from a number of different angles. We're doing that because housing, especially here in the Bay Area, as we all know, as residents of the Bay Area, is a big deal. We've got some statistics here on this slide, which I won't rehash with you. You can read them yourself, but I will say that the high level takeaway here is that housing represents the largest household expenditure for people here in the Bay Area. It's really the thing that eats up the lion's share of people's monthly income. It's just people expending that budget just to stay housed. And that means that, of course, it leaves little room to address families' other necessities aside from housing, let alone being able to save for emergencies or to be able to invest in future goals. And so it's a huge deal, and it's really representing a huge financial burden for so many Bay Area households. Meanwhile, the housing demand continues to rise and supply is failing to keep up with that by a huge shortfall. And so housing and rent prices are continuing to climb and production is just not able to keep up with all the people that need the housing. So in short, housing is one of the most critical issues we face as a region. It's both, it's a crisis of numbers, but more than that, of course, it's a human crisis. And that means that, of course, these numbers have huge ripple effects. We're seeing that jobs that were previously considered middle income are, comparatively speaking, especially when you stack it up against housing costs, relatively low income. Just these are people that serve key functions that keep our society, our communities moving. And of course, we saw that more clearly than ever in the height of the pandemic, how much our communities really depend on people that are our teachers, our postal workers, our construction staff, people that really keep our communities moving. These folks are now in stiff competition with middle and low and high income families because of this housing shortfall. So people are really having trouble being able to keep up with and address their housing needs, despite having what were previously considered pretty solid, stable middle incomes. And that lack of affordable housing means that we are seeing so many people and families pushed to the margins of the housing market, which means they are taking super long commutes to get into work, which of course is a toll on individual families, but also an environmental toll, which of course affects all of our health in all of our communities. We also see families forced into overcrowded and unsafe and unstable conditions. There are a host of issues that we see as a result of there just not being enough affordable housing available for families. And so we're seeing people leave the region entirely or just choose not to move here. I'm sure many of you as employers can recognize this as an issue. We hear from a lot of employers that say housing in the region makes it difficult to attract and retain talent when people simply can't afford to live in or near the communities that they work in and serve in.
So we're gonna play a video here in a second, and I feel like I might be the video guy, but I wanted to introduce you to Rose. Rose is a Kaiser Permanente employee and a proud Habitat for Humanity homeowner for the last 8 years. And she's actually being videotaped on site for Esperanza's Place. So why don't we go ahead and play this very short clip.
Without Habitat, I probably would not have got my degree. Without Habitat, I definitely wouldn't be able to send 3 kids off to college and pay their tuition on my one income through Kaiser. And Habitat has given me the space to be able to have home, have space, and provide my kids with a life that we would not have had if I had to pay market rent and do the things that we were doing prior to. Without
you know, in this video is really just an amazing example of the impact affordable housing can have. And I've seen this video several times, and every time that I see it, it gives me that reflection of why we're here as a Kaiser Permanente, partner with Habitat for Humanity, and of course other organizations to address such a huge issue that is impacting people like Rose. And you know, for us going forward with addressing this, really can change her life and her family and so forth. So it's always a good reflection to hear the impact that we can have by doing something as simple as this. So let's go to the next slide. So health and housing goes absolutely hand in hand. Addressing the social determinants of health for our members and their communities is really a top priority for Kaiser Permanente. These determinants of health are conditions in which people are born, grow, work, live, and age in the wider sets of forces shaping the conditions of daily life. By us investing in and addressing these social determinants of health, really helping people with housing can truly help their overall health outcomes. So we all know there's a huge need for housing, especially in the Bay Area. The demand for housing is far greater than our current supply. Home prices continue to soar, which we all feel and know probably much closer than we would hope and expect. And then the rents are increasing as well. And so unfortunately, and as you saw with the video with Rose, this is directly impacting those low and moderate income families who cannot essentially meet the minimum income qualifications for purchase or even save for a down payment on a home. So these families are often financially overburdened by these rent costs, or missing out on long-term housing security and really the chance to build for their families. So we believe homeownership is truly linked to these positive outcomes in health and well-being, and really makes the opportunity achievable for more families, and of course advantageous for our overall community's wellness. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, I think we skipped. So you want to go back? I think we skipped a slide. Yep. So we know that where and how we live has a big impact on our family, our health, and our well-being. Here in the Bay Area, housing prices, as I mentioned, and a lack of supply are making it extremely difficult for those families with limited income to find what's really important, that's safe, stable, and secure housing. These housing challenges totally undermine the health of people living in our communities, really often forcing them to cut back on meals or postpone that needed medical care. And maybe folks on the call today, or you know someone that is currently in this situation. As we do research and we look at studies, it really consistently validates that having stable, affordable housing is absolutely closely linked to health. And the result of securing affordable places for people to live positively will change their overall health and well-being, their financial savings, their academic performance, their family life, and just so much more. All right, Patti.
Thanks, Chad. So like Chad said, homeownership can have a massive impact on families, but beyond that, it also is wonderful for our communities. And just a few reasons. Homeownership keeps people rooted in their communities, right? They're invested in their communities for the long term, which means that neighbors experience greater cohesiveness and connectivity with each other. Families that can stay rooted in their community have been shown to be more involved in their communities, more engaged with their neighbors, more politically active. I can tell you personally, I've spoken with a Habitat homeowner named Amna in Cupertino, who actually, after she moved in, started her neighborhood watch program and is a block captain. So she really spearheaded that effort and keeps her whole community safer and more engaged. I know a teenager named Alexis, actually getting ready to graduate high school from her Habitat home in Fremont, who's worked for a public defender's office as a summer internship and is going on to become really politically engaged and socially aware. So these are just a couple of examples that I can cite of people that have shown once they are able to feel rooted in their communities and know that that housing is stable, it really broadens their perspective and has them, take the health of their whole community into account as well. And also, of course, homeownership promotes stability in your housing, advances education goals, and of course, is a keystone to building generational wealth. And so I have personally seen over the years, I've been involved with Habitat for about 21 years now at this point. And so I've gotten the opportunity, the greatest privilege of my work is that I get the opportunity to actually speak with and get to know so many families that partner with Habitat and purchase their homes through Habitat. And so I can think of countless homeowners that I've gotten to know over the years whose previous housing situations had them in conditions that presented health hazards. So that could be overcrowding, disrepair, mold, asthma as a result of those environmental toxins. But even beyond those specific health hazards, just the stress of experiencing housing insecurity can be a huge health hazard. I actually recently spoke with Fioriwat, who is one of our Habitat homeowners in Sunnyvale. She's lived in her home since 2014, and she told me that before she was living in rental housing with constant rent increases, and in order to keep up with that rent, she was working overtime constantly, pretty much on a nightly basis. She was sleeping 3, maybe 4 hours a night, had severe health issues as a result of stress. Most notably, she had very severe acid reflux that was quite debilitating. And she says that since she became a homeowner through Habitat, she sleeps a solid 8 hours a night. She goes to a gym. Her acid reflux problems have been completely relieved. And so I think of Fioriwat when I think of that connection between health and housing. And I also think of Rose, who you met in the video just a couple slides back that Chad introduced. Rose, is today nearly finished with a master's degree in counseling. She's actually doing that through a program at Kaiser. And so she's toward the end of that, I think she finishes in about 2 months. She has started doing her clinical hours, so she's seeing clients. And I just talked to her last week. She said she feels like she's truly found her calling. That fittingly, that calling is empowering more people in the community to improve their own health. So I think that's such a great full circle story that shows how housing and health can really be deeply connected.
So this is a perfect slide for you as the local businesses and organizations, it's part of the Chamber of Commerce. And so you're probably thinking, what does this mean for me and my employees and my workforce? So we believe that projects just like Esperanza Place, so what you saw in the video a few slides back, really makes a better community for us all. And that's just one example of many other projects and other housing opportunities that exist that can really impact our communities across the Bay Area. We also believe that our workforce can be stronger and healthier. So we know that employees can live close and work close by to where they live. It overall improves their physical and mental health. It creates less financial stress, and Patti gave some great examples of what that actually looks like in real time. And then, believe it or not, it reduces traffic and congestions on the roadways. So imagine, and I'm sure you've probably heard this, employees that have to commute 30, 40, 50 miles away, and I got stuck on the 680 or whatever it may be. But living closer to work could be a huge benefit for some of those employees. Let's go to the next slide. So this is an example of, and I won't go through all the details, but Kaiser Permanente is really wanting to be a leading front to end homelessness, preserve affordable housing, and really making sure that families have stable and affordable places to live. And we've given you several different examples and hopefully reinforced this point many, many times. So on this slide, you can see several different areas of where Kaiser Permanente is really putting their money, really putting their knowledge and their willingness to create impacts. So we're of course very grateful to partner with Habitat for Humanity and so many other organizations to transform housing in the Bay Area. Kaiser Permanente is also a major employer in the area. As you saw that we've got 2 medical centers and 9 MOBs just within our 2 counties here. And we know the need for affordable housing is really important and extends to our employees as well. And really workforce housing is essential to the success of your local businesses, your organizations, and really the community that rely on those services to meet what businesses provide. We also believe communities need to support the building and preservation of affordable housing, identify support for renters and low-income homeowners, excuse me, and really engage with partners across the government and community sector. So again, as I look in some of you that are on screen, I see Mayor Marchand, if I'm saying that correctly. You have a very important role in helping us partner and to see what we can do to provide affordable housing within Alameda County and in other parts of the Tri-Valley. We've got a few more slides, so we're getting close. Let's go to the next one. So really, this is the path forward. No one person or organization can fix this issue. We totally understand that partnerships are absolutely essential to this work. Every bit of time, resources, and supports makes a real difference. And now we've done this presentation a few times, and we always get asked, well, what can I do? And there's a lot of different ways of how you can support it. We've got a slide that'll kind of address what that looks like. So we know that projects like Esperanza Place is really the exception versus the norm. But that's why we're also working with Habitat for Humanity and so many other partners to really look at this from a small to a medium and a larger scale all over the East Bay and what other impacts that we can make. The important thing here is to remember these efforts are much, much, much bigger than Habitat and Kaiser Permanente. All these efforts work because of dozens of local businesses like yourselves that come together to really help build a stronger and healthier community.
Exactly. And as Chad said, Esperanza Place is a wonderful project. We're really proud of it, but it is the exception and it cannot stand alone. There are so many other paths forward that we need to really move the needle in this housing crisis. One of those, like I mentioned earlier, we've got to preserve the housing that we have and do what we can to keep it affordable. We need to produce more housing. As I said before, we are not keeping up with the demand for housing in the area where the production falls short to a high degree. And to that end, we also need to advocate for a policy environment that makes it possible to build more and build more affordably where possible. One thing that Habitat for Humanity, along with our fellow affiliates up and down the state of California, are really advocating hard for right now is restoring funding in the California state budget to CalHome, which is the single state program that provides funding for the production of affordable ownership housing. A lot of people see affordable housing as one single issue, but within that, if you look more closely, a lot of the budget that gets allocated toward alleviating the housing crisis is allocated toward affordable rental, toward emergency, toward transitional housing, which is all incredibly important, but there's very, very little dedicated funding for producing more homes that are affordable for more Californians to own. And so CalHome is something that's on the table right now that we're trying to get $100 million in budget funding restored to for the upcoming fiscal year. So advocacy can make a huge difference. Just speaking up at the local, state, and federal level, just making your voice heard in support of affordable housing can be a huge factor. As far as other ways you can help, like Chad said, people are always itching to get involved, and we love that. We cannot do anything that we do at Habitat without that support. And one of the key ways that so many people engage with our work is by volunteering. Sharon was just saying she goes by the site all the time, so feel free to stop in and help us out. We've got roofing, we've got siding, we've got pretty much everything under the sun right now happening out at Esperanza Place. So we definitely can use your help out on the construction site. You know, being on the phone here with Chad, it brings to mind the fact that I just saw my own Kaiser practitioner earlier this week, and it's a good reminder of how seriously my doctor takes heart health, cardiac health. And I always like to say that volunteering with Habitat for Humanity can be fantastic cardio, but it's also great for your heart in lots of other ways because it does such good in the community. So please ask me about volunteering. You can visit our website and learn more. It's easy to just grab a slot, see what's available. You can also donate. Donations of any size are hugely important and help us keep projects like Esperanza Place on track and moving forward, and help us advance more projects that we have in the pipeline for the years ahead. And then, like I said, advocacy is huge. Just letting your state leaders, your local leaders know that you support affordable housing. Whenever we propose an affordable housing development, we go through city planning, we go before city council. And so we need those folks that come out and tell their leaders, I support this. Yes, in my community. I do want to see this in my community. So your voice can also make a huge difference.
And one thing to add before we go to the next slide, a shameless plug here on the volunteering. So on a few of these slides, and actually on this one that you're seeing right here, this is our Chief Financial Officer, Travis Tidyman, for our service area as one of our volunteer build days. And so it makes phenomenal team building. It's fun to do. And this was actually taken in a day in August. And of course, it happened to be 98 degrees. So it was super hot. But it was really fun. And so if you are looking for that team building exercise, but also contributing to a really, really good organization and making a difference, this is phenomenal. And I can't stress it enough. And so we had a great time. And as I mentioned throughout the slides, these are different pictures of our teams doing build days. And we've had, I think now maybe 5 build days. So we do it every month. And we encourage anyone in our organization to participate. And usually it's on a Saturday, and spend the whole day there. And everyone, when they leave, they always have a great time. So, all right, now we can go to the next slide.
I was just going to jump in for a quick second. I'm seeing a question in the chat from Tracy about whether folks that don't have any construction skills can volunteer. Yes, 1000%. Yes, please. I walked onto my first Habitat construction site in 2002 in Crockett, never having picked up a hammer in my life. And I will tell you, I was hooked on Habitat from day one. It's the reason I'm still here 21 years later. So we provide the tools, we provide the training. Like Chad said, thank you for the shameless plug. It's a great way to get your groups together. It's a great way for people that normally work together in one context to get to know each other in a different way. Groups can absolutely sign up together. We do have a formal team building program that combines bringing your team out and also reserving that place on site, and also making a sponsorship donation for that reservation and for that curated team building day. So that's a program we have as well. I don't have anything in the Tri-Valley that's coming up soon, and I will leave my contact information in the chat, but you can also scan, Emily has this slide up that has our website available if you want to find out more information on any of those opportunities, but I will leave my info in the chat.
And I am so far from knowing how to use a hammer or any type of construction material. So I will speak from personal, but they do a great job making sure that, you know, you're trained, you're comfortable. If you need any help, they make it very easy. And so no necessary experience required. You just come in with an open mind and really have a great time. So this is the end of our presentation. Again, thank you so much for having us. It's really been an honor to come here this morning and to present something that is so impactful. If you have more information, if you have your cell phone with you right now, you can actually pull them out and you can scan the QR codes. But we got both organizations here that have more information on the Kaiser Permanente side and then the Habitat for Humanity side. And then you can also sign up for updates if you want anything delivered right to your email, et cetera, in terms of what's going on with both organizations. So I do see a few hands up, so I think there's some time to take questions and answer any comments. We'll do our best to answer those questions, and if we don't, we'll have to refer you to the right individuals to make sure you get some of those questions answered. So thank you again, guys.
Alan, do you want to go first?
So yeah, I've volunteered at Habitat, both on the units behind Rotten Robbie and Livermore, plus Oakland and Walnut Creek. But my and I actually am aware of some of the land acquisition behind Rotten Robbie, which brings up the question of how you need land to build, right? And so I was kind of disappointed you didn't talk about the practical realities. I mean, you gave a pitch for why people need homes, but in fact, that's not the important issue. The important issue is getting the resources to build them. And in that regard, also, you did touch on a little bit the relative merits of ownership versus rental, because the PR is overwhelmingly about rental these days. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe we're missing the boat. But anyway, it gets back to this issue of how do you get land, and what is the possibility of getting land in Livermore or the Tri-Valley and broader?
Alan, I'll be honest, we have a project management team for whom that's their specialty. So I can only tell you sort of secondhand, from my side. I know that we get land in a variety of ways. Sometimes it's, bidding on land the same way any other developer would. We do occasionally get sites that are donated. We're always looking for opportunities where we can to build on underutilized infill sites so that we're not, we're able to use the land that's already here in our communities and already connected to our infrastructure. So that's what I can tell you about that. But if you are looking for more detailed information, or if you have more specific questions, I'm happy to take your contact information, or you can reach out. I did paste mine in the chat, and I can hunt down those specific answers for you. I apologize that I don't know too much intimate detail about the land acquisition process, but you are touching on something that I like to highlight for people, and I should look this up and paste it in the chat. But most people think they see the part of the process that's visible for people is that moment we put shovels in the ground, we're going vertical, we're building, and then we have that great ceremony where we hand off keys to a brand new homeowner at the end of that process. But there is a multi-year process of pre-development that goes into getting to that place where we're putting shovels in the ground. We actually put out a blog post, which is what I can paste in the chat in just a minute, called the 9 Steps to Building a Habitat Home, where you see just a high level rundown of all of those steps that we have to cross before we ever get to shovels in the ground. And that pre-development process is really where that advocacy comes into play, where we really need people speaking up and saying, yes, I want to see this happen in my community. And then as far as the benefits of home ownership versus rental, Alan, Chad maybe has more to say on this, but we definitely have seen study after study that associates home ownership specifically with these long-term improvements, or improved outcomes, I should say, with respect to people's health and overall wellness, with respect to people's finances, with respect to people's academic outcomes. I can say from just talking to Habitat homeowners over the years, Rose is a great example. When I first met her, she told me that, she had been working for years trying to finish that college degree, but was, at times staying on a family member's couch without an internet connection. Her oldest son, when I met him, he was 16 and was telling me he didn't know if his backpack would be where he left it in the morning, because it was just a chaotic home environment with so many people coming and going. And now that oldest son is next month graduating from college, and her youngest two are, finishing their first semesters of school. She's got boy-girl twins who are first years in college. And she, meanwhile, is nearly done with her master's. And so I've gotten to see that sort of life cycle really happen before my eyes. And, like I said, I swung my first hammer in Crockett in 2002. I worked alongside at the time, future Habitat homeowner named Valerie, married her husband, John, 3 kids, were having a lot of trouble just staying in the area. Their rent, like the story of so many people, was increasing constantly, and they weren't sure, even with a 2 full-time income family, they'd be able to stay, let alone ever purchase a home. And now, 21 years later, their kids have grown. They're still in the area. She's got grandkids. She just retrofitted. So they've got construction skills. Our homeowners put in hundreds of hours on the construction of their own homes. She and her husband retrofitted their son's old bedroom with a toddler-sized library so that his son now comes and pounds up the same stairs his father used to and reads books in his father's old room. So I've gotten to see that happen, see families really go from housing instability to being able to take real root in their communities and know that their housing is stable. And so I often like to say, I see families like Rose's go on to do these incredible things once they become homeowners, and Habitat doesn't do that for these families. What we do is provide that opportunity to have a home is stable, home price or housing costs that will be stable and that you can afford. And then that, for so many families, is the difference between worrying about meeting their necessities for the month to being able to lift their eyes to the horizon and think about, how do I work toward my future goals? And that's a huge change in perspective for so many people.
The only thing I would add, and Patty, you did a phenomenal job answering that question from the employer's perspective. And, you all as employers, I'm assuming, have similar thoughts and questions, is affordability. And so as one of the leaders in Walnut Creek is a very high affluent, expensive area to live in. And 90, probably 8%, I'm confident that number, do not live in Walnut Creek. They live in the surrounding areas and have to commute in. And so affordable housing becomes a barrier for recruitment. So bringing new employees in. And again, most of our employees fall into that low and moderate income. It's not everyone's a physician. Not everyone is the high end on the income scale. So how to have the affordability for our staff, ease to get to work is really, really key. And so we see a lot of our staff members will turn over because they say, I can't afford to live here. Or when we recruit employees in, I can't come to the Bay Area because I can't afford to. We even get people that are in the high income brackets say the same thing. I can't come because it's too expensive. And so this affordability question is really an important one too. Stability is absolutely critical and key, but affordability is the next thing. And that's something that we're all dealing with, is how do you manage the affordability, whether you buy or rent. They're both expensive. And so we have to look to address both. So, and I see Mayor Marchand, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. And Frida Court, I was extraordinarily proud to be there for the ribbon cutting on that, because ultimately, I think a third of those units were housing for Livermore teachers. So it really does provide a tremendous benefit to the community. Now, what was interesting is one of the board members was there also for the ribbon cutting, and I had gone to elementary school with him. Hadn't seen him for probably 30 years.
Oh gosh.
But still engaged and doing great things for the community. So that was very heartening to see that. One of the statistics that you brought up was very interesting. It was shelter for the homeless as about $20,000 a year. So if you provide stable housing for people that are experiencing homelessness, it's about $20,000 a year. Several years ago, the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness published a report that said the average cost of a person who is experiencing homelessness to the community as a whole was about $120,000 a year. Reason being is you have healthcare costs because they tend to be frequent flyers in either emergency rooms or urgent cares. You have the emergency services costs. You have the criminal justice costs. So that $20,000 really is a bargain if you can put them into stable housing, supportive housing with those supportive services. And that's why when we're talking about people that are experiencing homelessness, it is so important that we include those wraparound services to ensure that they can succeed, because it's 120 grand if they're homeless, and it's about $20,000 to provide stable supportive housing. So that's a tremendous difference to make. And I've heard people complain that, well, I don't want homeless people living here. I'm sorry, once you provide stable housing, they're no longer homeless. Okay, it's a win for everybody. So yes, love the work that you do. However we can support, we're going to continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you for that point, Mayor. And I did want to add, for those of you that don't know, this is actually way down in San Jose, so out of area for most of you. We actually recently partnered with the city of San Jose to build 5 transitional housing communities that are fully supported, like Mayor Marchand mentioned, fully supported by wraparound services. And the last I checked, now this is not recent, this is peak pandemic, but one of those communities that we built, these were small cabin communities with communal facilities that offer 24/7 access to counseling and case management services, computing facilities, laundry, washrooms. The site had sanitation, security, and parking, all of those accommodations, and then folks' individual cabins, locking door, electricity, storage, a bed, a desk, and most importantly, those wraparound services. So providing people that safe, secure, habitable, and dignified, really, way to have a path to permanent housing was huge. And last time I checked, folks had an average stay of about 60 days in that community, moving through and then on to a more permanent housing solution. And so while that's not our standard habitat model, we're really focused on affordable ownership housing. That is, we are always looking for those opportunities to partner in ways that can, use our expertise in building affordable housing, our incredibly dedicated and amazing volunteer and donor base and supporter base, and bring that to bear on other housing solutions that can have a broader impact on the housing crisis.
Okay. Looking for questions. And Patty, I just saw, I just heard from our community benefit, it looks like John Muir is going to be out there on May 12th.
Oh, fantastic.
And I would say too, Alan, what's really neat about this particular site is it's remarkable how they managed to, there's beautiful oaks there, but then the BART tracks are there and just the piece of land, it's just perfect. I mean, you just look at how efficient and just with everything that how many housing units they managed to get in there in this spot of land. And I mean, I think it's really neat to just watch the whole construction and just have it just fit right into that whole community. And there's a dog park right behind there. So I just think it's a neat project. So
yeah,
thanks to everybody.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, because I agree. In that video, when you look at it and the question about the land, and you don't always find the perfect land, but you'll find the perfect land. And for that piece of land where Esperanza's Place is right now, what's neat in the technology, and Patty can probably talk more than I can, but I learned this when we were doing the build days, is so the BART runs right, I mean, almost looks like it's running on top of the unit, but the building construction is, of course, noise dampening materials. And so I asked the question, think about the train that runs every 20 minutes. What is that going to be from just the noise pollution? And they won't hear it. I mean, unless you're outside, of course, you'll hear it. But just the technology that goes into this is really wild and really, really important, because some people don't want to live near a train station, but ease of access to use transportation is so critical and so key. So that land is really perfect.
Yeah, great point, Chad. And I can confirm with you now that we've had, I don't know if you've been out, Chad, since we've installed some of the first windows, but I can confirm, I'm trying to remember, I think it's low U. I forget which number. There's some letter that represents the quality of that sound dampening, but whatever that is, it's higher than what's typically required. And I have stood inside some of those units whose windows have been installed, and you can barely hear the train when it passes, which is huge. But it also represents, Esperanza Place is a great sort of microcosm of what we're really trying to move toward with more of our new home developments, which is higher density. So we're not building high rises, but we are trying to maximize the land that we have. As Alan referred to, land is scarce. It's hard to come by and it's very expensive here in the Bay Area. And so where we can, we really want to try and provide the opportunity of home ownership to as many people and families as we can on the land that we have available. And so we are, building townhome style here at Esperanza Place so that we can serve more families, 42 to be specific with Esperanza. And also it is transit oriented. So we are purposely trying to build where people have access to mass transit, particularly for families that may rely on it more than most. And so we really want to make sure that that access is really easy. So you can see that this site is very, very close to BART. I would say maybe a 3-minute walk from the station. 5 if you're really taking your time, probably. And also it's close to about 17 bus lines that stop right nearby on the corner. And so very accessible to mass transit. And then lastly, it's zero net energy. It's designed to produce more energy than it will consume. And so, like we said earlier, the housing crisis is sort of interlinked with the environmental crisis here in the Bay Area. We're looking at people spending longer times on more congested roadways, which means more emissions for all of us. And so we're, by being both transit focused and building more sustainably, we're really recognizing that interconnectedness between housing and sustainability as well. I'm seeing a question from Tracy.
Yes, thank you. Excuse my ignorance on this, but I just had a thought. You get them in, you got wonderful affordable housing at a lower rate. Is it in perpetuity? Meaning, what if they turn around and sell the house in a year? Are we able to still keep those housing units at that lower accessibility rate?
Yes, great question, Tracy. Absolutely. We this specific resale restriction, the length of it will vary depending on, you know, the municipality in which we're working. But we might see something of 30, 50, 99 years essentially in perpetuity. But our goal definitely is to have every home we build remain affordable for as long as possible. You know, we really want to see families that are purchasing these homes so that they're able to be rooted in a community. And you know, like I said, I've gotten the opportunity to talk to so many families, and that's such a huge part of, especially families with young children, what they're really looking for in the opportunity of homeownership is to get away from that sense of, you know, just trying to get toward the end of the month and know that your housing is secure for the month to come, and be able to move to a place where you know who your neighbors are going to be for the next 10 years, you know where your house will be, you know where you'll be going to school, where you'll be sending your kids to school. And so really that's one of the huge goals of providing these opportunities, is making sure that they remain. And so that resale restriction typically means that during the resale restriction period, Habitat has the first right to purchase back the homeowner's equity in the home, so that we can then, you know, go in with our volunteer crew, our staff, make any necessary upgrades and repairs, and make sure it is ready to be turned around and sold to another Habitat homeowner under a similar partnership agreement.
The Livermore for sale affordability is 55 years. So we have that we want to make sure that it stays affordable. There are some cities where it's a 5-year affordability, and there's a lottery that they have, and one of the recent lotteries, one family brought people from all over the state, and they won the lottery, right? Because they knew that they were going to buy this house and in 5 years flip it and make $1 million. So
Right.
that's not the reason to have affordable housing. It's, you want to be a generational thing. So we're very focused on that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, I think that's all the questions.
I know. I was gonna say, I don't see any other questions, but I would like to thank Chad and your team, and of course, Patti, and everything that you do. Thank you for presenting here this morning at the Livermore Chamber Business Alliance meeting. And with that, we are going to wrap up a little bit early. Just a reminder to everyone that our next meeting will be Wednesday, May 3rd, where we'll be hearing from our own Dennis Camps from Zone 7. So that'll be fun. Oh, and Robert Seeley from California Water Service. So lots and lots of chat about water in May.
Very
All
good.
right. With